Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 10th world of Valheim. In this harsh realm, warriors are sent here by Odin because he overheard his enemies were growing in strength once again. And to combat this, he sent his finest Valkyries to scour the battlefields for his mightiest of fallen warriors. Even though he was once dead, our warrior Askvall lives once more. In this challenge, I'm simply attempting to not die and progress to, at minimum, the plains biome. Now for the rules. The settings I chose to use on this beautiful example of a world are simple. It's basically hardcore settings, but with the map turned back on. This is strictly for progression reasons, and I don't want to be stuck in a biome for 35 days or more because I'm searching for like a boss altar. I do note that you will see my buffs change periodically or magically go away into the next day, and that's because I played for like a day or two or three and then I just logged off. But now that that's out of the way, I'm going to guide you through the story of our dear warrior, Askvall. It started off like every other playthrough. Make a character, sit through intro, and get dropped in by the Valkyrie. I had so many ideas running through my mind on how I can actually complete this challenge at this point. But we started off with the basics of collecting wood and stone, along with foraging mushrooms and berries. I checked Eikthr's Vegvisir and noticed that he was quite close to spawn, as per usual. I was then greeted with my first enemy, the annoying Grey Dwarf. It was quick because I gave this man some work, but right after I came across this little ruined hut and decided that it would be my first base. It had berry bushes right beside it too. After knocking down some saplings, I crafted up a stone axe. I also tried to fight this boar for some early meat, but Buddy kinda ran away and spun back for seconds just to get cooked, as the kids say. It was about time I crafted a hammer considering I was like 5 minutes in. After a quick foraging session, I entered the shack for the very first time. The goodies inside the chest actually weren't so bad. This place still needs some repairs though, so I placed my workbench and got to fixing it Felix. I made sure to get every nook and cranny for maximum protection. I was collecting most of the wood from saplings up until now because with the axe I can chop trees. I fixed up the roof and placed down my bed. The bed is a key part of this playthrough, but it's over if I die, so it can only serve as a time skipping purpose. Anyway, I crafted up a hoe and leveled the immediate area of my base to make some room for my campfire and cooking stations. Always do this many because you can cook 8 at once. Well, to be frank, I kinda foraged for the rest of the day. I did try to sneak in a few deer, but I kinda failed on the first one. I kept hunting boars because I wanted the bow more than anything at the time, and I ended up killing that deer from earlier with a doohickey type celebration. But alas, my day of fun has nearly come to an end. With all of the meat in my hand, I cooked it all above the campfire. The cooking skill was a little bit new to me because I hadn't played Valheim in a while after the previous video. But then I lay my head to rest. My next objective was to find 2 deer trophies, some honey, and some boars for a bow. Luckily enough, this deer dropped our first trophy. One of my favorite early game things to do is to destroy old ruins for a little bit of wood.
Huh? You stupid!
I made sure to get as close as possible for deer from now on because what happened last time. Sometimes I'd end up in a simple pickle, but it wasn't anything I couldn't manage. No, that comes later, my dear lads. Holy shit, you see that? It's a 2-star deer. He was frightened. Yeah, so it turns out I was wrong. It's a 1-star, but regardless, this is my mission for today. Besides the main mission, it's evident I'm also foraging plenty of berries and other goods that I find on my travels. Ouch. If you listen closely. Sounds a deer call doubled, and I was right. 2 little deer chilling. But after a few more minutes of searching, I found him. The fabled. Wait. 2-star deer? It's Jover for you, bro. And to my luck, this bugger had the final trophy needed to summon Eikthr. I ended up finding a chest with a hefty amount of arrows in it, and decided to tear down the house for some extra wood. Later, I found a key location later on, the Holy Boar Stone. And to no surprise, this one had a 1-star boar, and Jesus, he kicked my ass. Almost killed me on day 2. I eventually evaded him enough and just took him out for that sweet hide. I discovered that the chest that was here and my chests I placed are different in size. I don't know, I just thought that was pretty funky. So today was the day I battled the first boss, Ikdir, who is this giant badass deer. Luckily, I found enough leather scrap to craft my first bow. I mean, I wasn't going to fight him without it. After a quick inventory sort, we were off. Now, this was kind of a small trek, so let me just... There we go.
You've got mail.
I'm not gonna lie, I'll just go through this quickly. He got off with the shot I thought I wouldn't hit, but I just kept dealing arrows and arrows worth of damage. Eventually, I wore him down enough to finish him off with my fists. And look at this, Buddy did not even approve. The first thing I did afterward was hang his head on the hook for his sweet powers. Now I did want to find a black forest and create a base or camp there just for easier access to copper and tin deposits, but if I found any today, I need a pickaxe, right? I searched high and I searched low for any signs of a black forest, but no luck today. I was hoping I didn't have to travel via raft, but, well, today was going quite swimmingly. I was foraging, then bam, skeleton comes out of nowhere. I noticed there were 2, so it means I have found a dungeon and a black forest. I wasn't quite prepared enough for a dungeon just yet, so I went to step foot into this dog shit black forest. I mean, seriously, man. World gen. Almost died in that black forest area, but I crafted up a little wood shield for when I do tackle the black forest. But that ran out my whole leather scrap supply. The rest of the day was spent hunting boar, but I killed nearly anything that crossed paths with me. I awoke into the morning to cook my next batch of meat because today we're going to the meadows to hunt some boars for a raft. There was a nice and wide open area with 2 houses and plenty of boars to hunt. This threw me so off guard, bro. Anyway, a prime objective is to move to a new base, because we can't stay in this stinky doodad of a shack for forever. So to follow protocol, I grabbed all the items I could, and found a nice little hill near the 2 houses to flatten. But first we have to get everything over here. Much better. Now to be honest, I had no clue what kind of base I wanted. I just knew it had to be absolutely secure and raid protected, so stone will come into play later. Once I was satisfied with the plot size, I had to mine many stone nodes in order to get enough materials for the walls. It took a while as seen by the grim lighting, but now came the time to secure the base. Bruh, that was all of my stone. Regardless, I had to get my base at least partially constructed. I was thinking a simple lean-to, open front type of house, if that makes sense. Oh right, I had another one I destroyed, okay. Alright, so now I woke up to destroy my house, and then I constructed the idea that I had earlier. As I laid down on the roof, this is when I decided on the design. Once I got everything situated in my chests, I upgraded to the flint axe and threw down a live, laugh, love sign for that silly millennial touch. I'm Gen Z, by the way. Also ended up getting enough stone to finally finish the base wall. As shown with the Great Orf, it does indeed work. The next morning, I grabbed the materials needed for a raft and placed it along the shore. Unfortunately, I did not have a single clue on how far or which direction to travel, but I had the tenacity to take on any challenge, so off we were. Very slowly. Because of the lack of nearby landmasses, I sailed to the closest one, which was located to the northwest of my base. But, oh wait, I decided this was stupid and turned around to return home. Why? I don't remember. Nothing else of day 7 was noteworthy, other than the fact that I found the Black Forest. I took a little peek at this stone building and eventually found myself caught in the crossfire of a war between some skeletons and great dwarfs. I took it upon myself to finish these buggers off and ran back home for the night. But in the next morning, I placed down my beehive to start hunting collection. Very essential for various meats later on. The most notable event was the first raid to ever strike me. This was my first on the hardest difficulty, so I tried to be as cautious as possible. That was accomplished simply by waiting and cleaning up the remaining great dwarfs. Back at the Black Forest, I decided that this little stone structure from the last visit would be my Black Forest base. Of course I need some TLC, but it's a strong foundation for any attack for now. Once that was done, I went out to look for some blueberries and carrots, and oh, what do you know? Finally, bro. I wanted to cut a couple of pine trees for some core wood. Alright, bro. Now that I have some peace, I cut the tree to get that sweet core wood. Right now it's mostly used for building pieces, but it is also used for many skeletons' demise. But it will have to wait because I want some copper today. The base was lacking a storage system, so now seemed a more appropriate time than ever to establish one. I can't wait to mine this copper. Wait, what the fuck?
Huh?
I placed down a few more chests since, well, one just won't do the job. Then I went hunting for some deer trophies and somehow ended up dueling with this archer skeleton, but eventually ran away because it actually wasn't worth the time at all. I did go back home just to fetch a few materials to help me back at the Black Forest base. Lucky me though, because I came across this little abandoned village that had a beehive. And for some extra wood, I tore the whole thing down. See, on the surface it seems pointless for one to have a bed in a no-death room, but sleeping is a core part of this. Oh, hello. The workbench was looking a little bleak, so I figured we should get it to level 2 at this base. Because we got the stag breaker, oh yeah. Nope. Anyway. While I was out farming boars, a big blue guest showed up, and this man could end my run in a single strike, so I absolutely have to be careful. Hopefully this bow will get him though. Well, goodbye then. This dude was such a hassle, and the other enemies don't make this any fucking better. But yeah, I pretty much handled bro, no sweat. You know what I'm saying. The forest started moving when I got back to base, so you know I was shitting bricks. I had literally no clue how to handle this. So, as any man who is actively almost being poisoned, I made my first armor upgrade of troll leather trousers. Also, I want to say how good this door is for shooting enemies. Anyway, I was out searching for some dungeons and luckily found 2 little skeletons in their playtime. First dungeon, here we go. I gotta say it's quite funky for that to happen. Well, regardless, I got my first settling core, which means we got some new recipes as you can see. And by the way, the treasure rooms were great. They were stacked.
Sweet!
Well, we made it out with 7 settling cores, thankfully.
Come here, boy!
The next dungeon had a rancid remains, but I cowered behind the door as my only source of damage and cover.
Hello there.
Nope.
Nice.
The Black Forest base is going to be our primary way of smelting until we return to the main base. And that is done with this right here. To sum it up for those unfamiliar, smelt ore, get barred, get strong. So we have a smelter, but we also need some space for a kiln. So I'm flattening out a space here that will soon be closed off for protection against raids. Afterwards, I went out to explore, but I noticed that there were absolutely no mobs. It's eerily quiet. Maybe something was up at the spawns, I'm not quite sure. Even when I was mining copper, nothing came to fight me like usual. I mean, at the time, it kinda creeped me out because this has never, ever happened to me. Regardless, I just mined until my pickaxe broke and started leveling more ground for the walls I'm about to create. Also, I'd like to note that we just moved into the Bronze Age, baby!
Oh yeah!
Banter aside, these ground walls are impenetrable to some smaller mobs, so we're going with them, despite the expensive stone. Okay, so it's smaller than you'd expect, but I promise it expands later on. This is just to protect me while smelting. And by the way, check this out. Other than how boring the day was smelting everything, the forest began moving once more. The raid left me basically trapped in my house for now. but today we are searching for some tin deposits to get our hands on some bronze tools. Anyway, I found some cool structures on the way, but thankfully the shore had some tin for us. I gotta check my surroundings real quick. This peninsula actually withheld plenty of tin for us to mine, so that's quite the boost. To note, this is actually the first time I've ever destroyed this type of shipwreck, and the yield of fine wood is insane. Back at home, we get the tin smelting and place a rug to boost our comfort level. Right after that, we get the forge placed down so we could finally craft some bronze. Now, the Bronze Age grants a lot of additional weapons to our arsenal, but this debated a topic on which one to choose. I was still pretty down bad for some copper, so I went to dig deeper in the vein which we had partially destroyed earlier. Despite appearances, it can, with its challenges. But like always, night came and I took a gander at what I could and couldn't craft at this level. And guess what? I want me a fine wood bow. Anyway, I was on the way back into base and this blue bastard here caught my eye.
Be very, very quiet.
While fighting the troll, I noticed that I could totally use him as a quick resource harvester. But one, he didn't have his big old tree in his hand, and it is needlessly dangerous. With the recent age we reached, I finally started utilizing some item stands. Despite being able to craft a tunic with the troll leather, I'm gonna save it until I get some bronze armor so I can use it for a cape instead. Why the hell am I paused for so long? I was out gathering some more tin for bronze production, and then this great orphan skeleton did a coordinated attack, and this shit low-key baffled me. It just hit me how I've totally been disregarding the beehive. Whoopsie. But anyway, I wanted to speed up my process of smelting, so I destroyed this little raised wall to make room for another smelter. These next few days are going to be a bit boring as it's just farming and all. However, it does pay off with this sweet bronze regardless. Whoop. My opinion on the Valheim dungeons is kinda mixed, but I gotta say it makes finding the loot feel quite rewarding. And despite the difficulty of this world and character, I'm having a lot of fun and I hope you're enjoying this as well. Just after daybreak, we got to chopping some wood to replenish the supply and we went mining too, but I didn't record because I forgot to resume the recording. Regardless, I crafted more arrows because I remembered that troll rage could happen and I'm not fighting a troll via melee weapons. I later crafted up some bronze plate leggings and the matching tunic in order to finish our armor. Looking pretty sharp if you ask me. I did notice that my tin was quite low, so I mined a few notes to refill. I forgot to record, so you could pause here and read it if you like. Back to when I remembered to record, I ended up defeating the final troll necessary for a trollhide cape and found a new dungeon to the southeast. I went home to craft the trollhide cape and became Gordon Ramsay by burning my food. I destroyed a portion of the wall in the backyard and flattened it out to make room for my additional kiln. The next morning, I finally crafted the bronze pickaxe to mine out the iron later on, and I tested it on some nearby bronze. Not much of a pierce difference, but at least there's more durability. Anyway, I went mining for tin again, and I was renovating the front end of my base for defense purposes. I ended up making this little contraption, but I ended up creating a full stick wall for maximum protection. Well, this is awkward. Yeah, so I woke to a raid and there are so many. Oh, and by the way, we're at least a fifth through the challenge. Nuh-uh. My curates were finally ready to pick and we unlocked a plethora of recipes that follow. These foods will be used in the upcoming Elder fight. We crafted up a buckler and had to chop some more fine wood and hunt more deer to collect the final materials needed for the carve. While we hunt for our final few deer, I want to note that these materials will be used to upgrade the fine wood bow as well due to the durability fully depleting before the altar falters. We finally decided to upgrade the hammer and hoe along with the fine wood bow. Now we just need one more ancient seed and we're ready for the elder. Oh fuck, we're just about ready for this fight. We're just gonna need to let this batch of carrots grow first. While they grow, I crafted up some queen's jam and hunted for some boar meat for jerky to advance both our health and stamina pools. Can't forget the fact that I finally placed down a mead kettle. Apparently it's ketich in modern Icelandic language. Pretty weird, right? Well, I'm American, so kettle it is and forever will be. But for now, we play the waiting game. Fuck ass carrots. And if you made it this far, props. I swear it gets exciting soon. I promise. Okay, today we get to work again. Oh, whoops. We got the food we oh so wanted, and fully upgraded our hammer and hoe. Sweet! Now it's time to hunt for the elder. But then I encountered a spawner and realized I totally forgot the ancient seeds. Silly me. Okay, now we're off for real this time. Unfortunately, as I approached the shore, night had already fell, so postponed the fight. As you can see, I'm visibly excited that the trader was nearby as well. Pretty crazy luck if you ask me. I may or may not have had a near-death experience, and had no idea where to run because I was surrounded. But I did flee to check out the altar despite the horde of enemies behind me. Fun fact, the altar's fire will actually drive away these enemies, except for the brutes. I sat until the morning and got right to work on being chased by a 2-star brute. For real though, I got to work taking out this nearby spawner to better my fighting chances. But I suppose we're ready.
Let's do this.
Yeah, the fight was the usual easy elder fight. Avoid the vines, shoot fire arrows. Aside from the fact he got stuck and made the fight quite easy. I'm not gonna lie, I got nothing to say. He's just too easy to cheese. Anyway, we got the swamp key and got his ability now. Look at this cool ass deer. This is like a high honor moment. Oh yeah, okay, just walk off. Although I was already battered and tired, I literally had to fight my way into my own house. For days 26 to 33, I did a small amount of advancement and a lot of farming. But to sum it up, I took on a couple of dungeons. Haha, look, free ghost update. Started moving all of our stuff back to the primary base. Sailed our boat back to the main base. Started leveling out the area near the shore for our soon-to-be brand spanking new base. Began to frame out some ideas that I visibly don't agree with. Look, as you can see, I didn't even like it. Anyway, I started to find some equal ground to where I started to find out what I really want. Oh, okay, never mind. Later in the day, I had some simple layout going for this temporary base. Stone will be a game changer. I started to fill the walls and the roof in at a later time, but it turns out I burnt through all of my wood, so I placed the furnaces and kiln down for now. I later collected more wood, but it started raining, which means my base will be slightly damaged until I repair it all. My notes say not much on this day, so I'm just going to deduce that I experimented with base designing and finally started an oak tree farm. I told myself that I will destroy this house whenever I can access stone, so very soon in the swamp really. But for now, I'm shaping out the flooring and decided what goes into each room. Most of this time was utilized for base and material transfer, although I had absolutely no idea what to do with the walls I built up around the first base. As the house was finally coming together and my items were moved into the proper chests, I started to feel a bit of relief because I finally managed to have a proper home down. I mean, looking back at this while editing it, makes you realize about your forgotten little moments of progress. I kinda get to relive that feeling of accomplishment again, you know? Anyway, sentimentals aside, I hung the elder's head on the hook and took in that little sequence. Now, I figured that sooner is better than later when it comes to base defense, so it was time to dig out a little moat. Sure, it's a little useless when you throw in the fact that I live right on the shore, but it will at least mitigate the enemy entry by little, or will it? I finished up the last of the moat the next morning and worked out all of the potential weak spots. Now it is just a little bit of earth left in the way of my vision. As I finished flattening the potential areas for later activity, I think to myself how this base may not be the best, but it's home for now. In the morning I built a portal and set it to spawn for easier access, and I also made this separate portal for Haldor since we're gonna go and finally spend all of our money to buy some items. As I approached Haldor, you know I had to give Palestine some love. But anyway, we went ahead and converted our goods into goodies, and bought ourselves the holy Mega Yord. I also bought a fishing rod and brace so I could try to learn the fishing system. And boom, we can teleport to Haldor anytime we need. Back at the dock, I was playing around with some shack ideas for a rugged look to my base. Now all that was left was to fish. I learned that fishing is actually pretty hard, but aside from the failure, I began fermenting the first potions of the run, which are poison resist meads for the swamp. Now we can say we have migrated our garden. Sweet. My supply of bronze was running quite low and I wanted to craft some bench upgrades. So I figured it's best I sailed to the island above to mine some more precious metals. During my sail back, the rain came. I prayed that there was no serpent, but my prayer was left unheard. I wanted to fight it, but he just kinda disappeared. Anyway, the poison resist mead was done, and I weirdly enough came the closest I have to dying yet. Strictly because of my carelessness. Notice how we haven't been raided in a while? About that. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Also, this is the closest to death, and it is not looking good. There is literally nothing interesting, day 40, other than my spawn proofing.
Sweet.
Aside from yesterday's boar, my plants were ready, so I replanted them and thought it's about time we looked for a swamp. The sail there was quite rainy and windy, but we arrived on shore amidst a battle. As night fell, I noticed that there was a stone ruin nearby and thought it would be perfect for my base since it's just outside of the swamp. Well, I was trying to make it my base before an all-out war erupted, but I quickly ended it and made the ruin a makeshift home. Speaking of makeshift homes, I had to travel back to the Black Forest base to retrieve my Stagbreaker to utilize it for some swamp crypts. Even though the Iron Sledge is probably a better choice, but an upgrade will surely suffice, at least for now. Let me tell you about this guy. I mean, he led me on a whole goose chase. He went and dicked around, whacked my boat, and then died by my hands. Silly jogger aside, I was approaching the crypt and looked up from my phone to see the bone mass altar. I was pretty excited as indicated by my erratic looking. I ran right into the crypt and had to cheese this spawner because it would be overbearing to deal with 100 enemies. I got my first 19 iron and ancient bark, but since it's so heavy I had to drop it at the entrance for later collection. The dungeon was easy, I just had to destroy the nutty scrap piles and whack with my Stagbreaker. Easy collection nonetheless. I get my first chain later on, which can get me the next forge upgrade. Took me a few trips to transfer everything. I just had a little trip up with some shamans and 2-star Grey Dwarfs. With the iron and the boat, I only need another crypt to set me through and I should be fully upgraded. I came across the second crypt, which is much easier as 2 ways are blocked off at the start. An archer jogger caught me by surprise, but I evaded his arrows with ease and dealt with him. To the left was a jogger who had the ability to run in water I can only swim in, so I either killed him with arrows or brought them back to the entrance. I had a small duel with a 2-star archer jogger that would definitely one-shot me, but I took care of him and his spawner and grabbed the loot from that room. I then looted the main area but forgot to resume the recording after that last note. Basically, the dungeon was a dead end. I had barely any iron or ancient bark. I can only carry about 1 more stack in the ship until it's full. Then I can return home and cook up the iron. And then I get to craft my new boot. I returned home for my resting buff and to repair my equipment, for hopefully one final trip back to the swamp. I approached the third and final crypt as night fell. The final crypt was just a bit weird. It had just enough iron for me to make it out though. It was filled with muddy scrap piles, which just is not good for my pickaxe durability, considering I didn't upgrade it. On the way back, I came across this abomination, so fuck that. With my boat filled with iron, time to sail back home for some new equipment. I wouldn't mind if a serpent appeared right now. I just hope I can get some scales and meat, because that would make a killer shield and some food. Oh look, my oak trees grew as I came close to shore. It was kind of scary putting my iron on the dock because it was inches away from being dropped into the ocean. But I did get all 125 pieces of scrap iron into a new chest beside my smelters. My next move is to go back to Halldor for some new purchases I had in mind. I spent basically all of my gold on 5 Ymir flesh for the Frostner in the future, and for a Thunderstone to destroy some junk items. I then picked up my first 2 pieces of iron and watched the log unlock many new things for me. My biggest takeaway is the stone cutter, which allows me to build using stone, my favorite. I first crafted some iron nails to get a good look at my new ship, or what will be. I woke the next morning to harvest all 105 carrots and focused on cutting more wood for some coal, but I also contemplated on how I was going to make my real base. It took some thought after all. My main base needs to be in tip-top shape to protect my most valuable resources and I, so after careful consideration, I began destroying the house. I didn't live in it for long, but it did bid me well. Not long after, I had a bit of trouble with the new cobble layout. But during the matter of trying to find out how big I want it to be, my first foul smell from the swamp thought it would introduce itself. As long as there aren't any archers, we were good. Days 46 to 49, my notes say the smell was gone and my home now lie a bloodshed battlefield. The base building was going a bit my way while I experimented. Had to fend off a few enemies and gather stone from time to time, but all seems great. I was finally starting to get the hang of a layout I liked. I filled in the floors, started on my workbench area, and started on my fireplace area, which was going to be dope. Just you wait and see. I'm getting into the upstairs portion. I seem to have the bigger problem with how stupid I made the layout. Sometimes when you build with stone 4x2s, you can get mixed up with an offset you forgot you created, and then you have to face the consequence. A good example is my front doors and the roof connection. Now I'm not exactly sure on what I was doing right here, but it was a cool experiment. I decided that it was best I try to build like a normal person instead of being extravagant with my building skills that are not present. It's kind of weird looking back many months seeing how I used a massive bedroom just for a bed. As I was finishing up the roof, it seemed as if it was about time I finish up the interior as well. This is what the outside looks like. Ignore that little unfinished bit though. Anyway, the last real touch was this little lattice I made to funnel the smoke from the hearth, which I thought it looked quite visually appealing. But other than that, the house is basically done. Anything else I had to do was completely out of free will, absolutely no requirement, which means I'm going to decorate the outside. Firstly, I had to flatten my land because it was a bit bumpy from my previous idea. But once that was done, I made a paved road to the docking area and to the garden, carefully avoiding the oak tree. And since my portal was left astray out in the heavy rain, I put it inside that one weird room upstairs I had no idea what to do with. Afterwards, I crafted my iron mace since it's the best real weapon for bone mass here soon. Once I got back to Haldor, I traded my treasures into money and bought 3 barrel hoops. Planted it right beside my staircase, and man, these things can hold stuff for how little they look. Nah, fuck just crops, I'm putting my raw meat in there too.
Say what?
Yeah, so I lost day 51. Here are my files with 800 gigabytes of footage, and here's my script I've been following. I recommend pausing and reading it to get a good idea of what went down. But back to normal footage, it took a while to park my boat because, well, I guess I suck. Then I realized I'm silly and stupid because I already did this script. I forgot my key, and I did all this for no reason. But what else to do than search for some turnip seeds and fight an abomination? This thing took forever to kill, and he would always run away from me. Silly bugger. Anyway, the turnip search was a bust. I mean, I literally searched the entire swamp. Just as I was leaving though, a wraith spawned and then descended, leading me to Odin, who was watching my progress. Anyway, to top off the night, I made my iron scale mail to boost my defense drastically for the swamp progression. I unfortunately had to chop more wood since you can never have enough in this damn game, and this wood was used for charcoal. I used the rest of my 5 iron to craft iron head arrows, which I've never really crafted before. With my new gear, it's time for the next swamp. I initially came across a large amount of spawners and camps, but I went deep enough to find the Surtling spawner alongside a crypt, given I had a bet on my way in against the Oozer. This dungeon was just loaded. I had a bit of a final hiccup though, because I kinda couldn't squeeze into a gap that was literally my size. This was the final chest room too, but I had stacked 3 stacks of iron near the entrance. That is more than enough for the rest of my journey. I transferred 1 stack of iron into the ship and came back to a Surtling that was leveled. I basically just wasted away the day walking around until I found a turnip seed, which I did not. I covered this whole area, not a single turnip spawn. Spawn rate is a bit too low. But I got back on my ship, and while getting myself unstuck, an abomination spawned right in front of me. Scarily enough, he couldn't hit me because he was too deep or he was either out of range. I'm not exactly sure. After evading that possible death, I sailed back home into the deep blue atmosphere. Part of me wishes I brought my fishing pole with me. Now I had exactly 3 stacks of iron, and to maximize my resting buff, I placed a table, 2 red banners, and an armor stand for both looks and comfort level increase. Now it's level 12 and this truly feels like a home to me. I also crafted up 2 medium health meats for the big fight. Now the only true 2 goals I have is to fight bone mass and get some turnips. Bone mass would probably be the second out of that. I picked up all 159 carrots and collected a bit more iron to finally craft my whole armor set. I truly did feel like a hero at this point. It should also be noted that I only need 2 more forge upgrades, an iron axe, and an iron shield to be completely out of the Iron Age. Now, today is a bit to a slow start, because I took a while to smelt some charcoal and iron, and farm my trees a little bit. I also hung up my bronze axe because I could hide the stand it was on, and it looked like it was kinda glued to the wall. But while the rest of the iron is smelting, I took some time to beautify my base and give it a little grass because, well, dirt doesn't look the best. I even got the edges to get nice cattails, but avoided the swim wall moat thingy because it doesn't need any grass. But the time came to finally craft my new axe. I tried it out on some nearby oak trees and man, it's way faster than the bronze. Who would have thought? Anyway, I gave my base even more zing on the outside by repaving the road to go back to the dock and covered the smelting area. I thought about having a bonfire, and I didn't really think much of it because the outside of the base being lit up would be nice, but damn, it was kind of ugly, but I didn't care. I even made a sitting log facing the ocean this deep blue misty night. Tell me this ain't screensaver worthy. I traveled back to the swamp again in hopes of finding some turnip seeds that I may have missed, but I found nothing even into the night. I have now completely searched both swamps and found not one single seed. I just want turnips, bro. Today was quite useless, but this won't strike down any of my hope. I'm gonna sail to other swamps and test my luck there. On day 58, I finally came back after like a 2-week break because I began my first year of college and I was trying out Arch Linux. I use Arch, by the way. But I did keep my Windows partition just to finish this video and to play multiplayer games and to edit. Also just found out that Valheim released a public test of the new update called the Call to Arms update, and I thought it looked really interesting. But enough about that. Let's get back into some Valheim. I came back from the break feeling refreshed, needing a bit of outside rework though. Then it hit me. I got upset again because I couldn't find any turnips. Oh no. Looks like I gotta pull up my straps and get searching for another swamp. So I crafted up my food again and prepared to sail. But I remembered I don't have any arrows, and I questioned myself if I had all the iron items. I didn't. I crafted up the iron buckler and was prepared to sail again, along with the 110 arrows of course. But by the time I got there it was already dark, so I just prepared to sleep for tomorrow. I came across a new swamp and scoured the edge and have yet to find these little yellow rascals. This is ridiculous. While scouting, I came across this scary creature.
Oh, that was freaky. I had no idea what that was. Holy.
It kind of reminded me of the infection from the nuclear nightmare, but then I realized it was just leeches in a cluster. I hoped to find those little wee yellow goods, but to no avail had found any. I jumped back onto my ship to search for more swamps. I sailed and I sailed. It was beautiful. I even found my first Leviathan. I thought it'd be funny if I sank it on the first hit, and, well. But that's fine. I didn't want to harpoon anyway. My luck just sucks right now. Oh, okay. Well, I definitely have a harpoon now. As I approached a new land, I found a massive swamp. This was huge, but I don't want to enter it at night because of wraiths. I kept telling myself that I didn't find any turnips in here, I'd just give up. I traversed forward into the swamp at least a little to get close for the next morning. Things kinda got a little out of hand though, so that only rendered me one option: to build closer to the bay and my ship. Just as I was about to sleep through the night, day 61 appeared on my screen. Today is the next IRL day and the Call to Arms update was officially announced and on the way soon. The beginning of the new swamp journey was great. I mean, I finally found turnips not even 30 seconds into the swamp. Wow. Well, time to sail back home. Maybe I'll visit the swamp sometime again when I finish the challenge. Perhaps to see if I even missed some more seeds so I can feel stupid about it later. It got pretty misty and I've been hoping for a serpent, but none ever come. Time was growing near the end of the next day, and my swamp base was close by, leaving me to think, why not just drop in and teleport home? See, I thought about breaking my ship apart to transfer materials back home, but the mobs were kind of abundant, and things were getting really hairy, so my only option was to go home in the portal. And you can bet the first thing I did was to rush and plant my turnips. Day 62 consists of me making a bit more iron because I realized my forge improvements weren't all complete. Not to mention I also needed more food, but anyway. I teleported to the swamp even though I had a low arrow count because my next objective is to spawn proof the swamp with campfires and ready Bomaz's battle arena. I noticed I basically had no land to work with. I don't really need much land because I'm going to go in circles anyway, but I do need an area that I can run away to every once in a while to fight off his summons. When that was taken care of, the campfires were put in place in a triangle shape. I mean, spawn proofing is pretty self-explanatory. You place a campfire and you have no spawns for that area. Place campfire everywhere, no spawn at all. It's a simple reduction of interference. I also made a tiny wall as a failsafe that I may not even use, but if I needed to, it'd hinder Bomaz a little bit. I am now ready for my toughest challenge yet. When I got on my ship to take it back home, I noticed that there was a resting buff being applied and it said that there was a fire nearby. It went away as I sailed off, but I just thought it was a bit funky. I finally got around to crafting that forge tool rack to get level 5 and began fermenting some frost resistance meats for the mountains. Unfortunately, I was missing a single piece of iron to craft the last available forge upgrade, which was the iron anvil. Instead, I just made some more iron-haired arrows for the big fight. Even though I'm not going to use them, so why is this my script? The rest of the day was very short, but I spent some time sprucing up the house into the night. Peep this, I log on, right? And remember how I haven't been raided in forever? Well, it strikes me almost as soon as I log back into the world. I quickly had to eat whatever was readily available, and it turns out that the walls work pretty decent. That was really the only interesting thing I had to do on day 64, but it hit me when I got back home that I need a boar farm. And as you just saw, my turnips and frost resistance meat are both ready. The boar nearby were a bit too low of a level, so I may have to, for the first time, make use of the holy boar stone. Then I went on a wild juggling goose chase of boar and various animals to set up my boar pen. It fit in quite well right here, and it was also heat at the moment when I built it. At least I got them all in there. Phew. Well, it was going absolutely lovely until this neck escaped his trap, struck my turnip, and destroyed it. That was the extra one too, man. After that upset was done, I got all the boars into one big pen. There were 5 total, and I had 50 yellow mushrooms for them to feed on. I even gave them a little door, which is more for decoration. Also tossed some little rocks in there too. Now it's truly a hunt for objectives and a waiting game. Anyway, I then remembered that yellow mushrooms aren't on the boar's culinary palette, so I ended up replacing that with the much less forageable red mushroom, but a smaller stack for now. Then I took a moment to reflect on my base's beauty. This is my second favorite base of all of my Valheim worlds, because I have to. I cannot get over how pretty it looks to me. Later, I crafted up the abyssal harpoon and tried it out on a lowly neck. It was pretty fun to be honest, but I never found a need for the harpoon in the playthrough, so up on the wall it goes. I could have used it to get the boars in the pen. Can you believe that? I didn't even think. I went back to spawn to swap out the Elder's Forsaken Power for Ichthyr's for the big fight that I keep mentioning but I haven't done yet due to some fucking turnips. Yeah, I low-key was having a sluggish and bad day, so I just sat around waiting for the turnips. I was relaxing, but I was attentive enough to immediately notice that trolls were on their way to ruin my base. I mean, look at this. I'm like a Minuteman. Thankfully, this box should keep them. Hey man, what are you doing down there? Oh, dude. Thankfully, I didn't lose all the turnips. I only just lost one. I went from 4 turnips to 2 because of a neck and a troll. Due to the previous raids, I decided to up the workbench game. You see, I dug a few trenches in a half circle around the base to create a radius preventing spawns, making sure to only keep the trenches close, like the rappers do. Originally, I thought you could dig the trench and raise the ground, suffocating the bench essentially, but no. My actual Valheim world has taught me that. I made this wood floor cover for the spots, and it kinda looked cool. My friend referred to it as guerrilla warfare, Vietnamese style. Well, most of my boars were tamed, and now I had all the turnips growing. It's only a matter of time until bone mass goes down. But with my doo-doo chest system right now, I decided to use the extra space near the workbenches to stack some resources. I wanted to do this because I have a ton of fine wood that I just will not use. But while doing this, I heard the final boar get tamed and ran outside to check it out. I named them Johnny, Bonnie, Tommy, Ronnie, and Salami. Pretty cute, huh? What? What do you mean no? I wanted more bees, but to obtain them, I need to find more abandoned structures. I ventured to the Great Plain once again to explore the southeast of the spawn island, and I remembered why I didn't initially come this way. It's because of a mountain. However, that same mountain had a little hut with a pack of wolves next to it, but I couldn't tell myself to not check it out. My luck paid off because this thing actually had a beehive in it, because of the huntsman's bow's low noise. I didn't alert the wolves while I was attempting to shoot the beehive down, but down it came and quickly. I took everything and was out of there. I found another little hut with a beehive in it and collected that too. I tried to get a cool little shot of Odin, who appeared in the meadows, but for some reason I was rudely interrupted. The boars had a baby, but I only found out when the little dude glitched out of the pen. I mean, it's not actually a glitch, it just happens when the boars are near the wall and mate. Well, I got raided by a swarm of Draugr and skeletons, and they messed up my base so bad. They killed all of my boars, they attacked my dock, they destroyed all of my beehives, and so on. I don't care too much about structure damage, but my boars, man? Come on. So after everything was repaired, I started taking measures where the enemies can't at least access the base from behind. Not that that was the problem, but my turnips are very precious and everything in the front is dispensable and recraftable. I raised the southwestern wall where I could place a smaller wall that is the same size as the base's level so enemies cannot pass the moat beyond this point. I evened out the land on the southern wall and then steepened the western wall to prevent any climbing. I don't like losing my precious resources, but figuring out how the enemies enter my base is good intel, and gives me time to improve my mistakes. The real reason that the mobs can enter my base easily is because the lower elevation closer to the shore. Hotspots for this include my boar pen and the bees. I knew this from the start, but I just wanted it to look nice. But now it's time to steepen it. I destroyed the land up until the dock, and then proceeded to the other side where the bees were and tried to do so, but the waves from the storm were much too strong for me, and it kept taking away my pickaxe. Today is the day. So for bone mass, you need good food. I began my culinary craft by making a full stack of sausages. They're easy, simple, and the health is astounding. Next was some muck shake. I know that the Queen's Jam is less costly than 4 muck shakes versus 4 Queen's Jam, but the stamina was 10 less, so I just went with the muck shakes for this fight. I was gonna craft some black soup, but it's much too expensive compared to the deer stew. Its only real difference is the 5 health, and it lasts longer too. I grabbed the 10 withered bones, sat down to get my health up, and traversed the bone mass's altar. I cleared the nearby 3 skeletons and surveyed everything nearby to make sure absolutely nothing was around to interfere. Then I slowly crept up to the altar. This is going to go swimmingly as long as I didn't get hit at all. The mace was putting in work due to my attack pattern because I would do a full combo attack twice, trying to guess his next action, but wary enough to evade everything in time. As I was chipping off his health, I kinda got too cocky while he was throwing up and he smacked the hell out of me. I panicked so bad that I literally paced around his summoning altar for a good minute and a half trying to get healed up naturally and waiting for the mead cooldown. Although that was quite a good lesson, I had to note that I could survive a swipe from him and that I need to be more careful. But in the end, I made him tap out and he threw up on me whilst I was freeing him. This little wishbone lifted the hugest weight off of my shoulders, and I don't have to stress about a big fight that could potentially be the end of my run. I went home to collect my turnips and even got an extra one for good luck. Also went to collect some honey, but I forgot a certain something. I went home to deposit all of my stuff and took a good gander about how much I've progressed and how far I've become. I keep questioning myself how much further I can progress in these 30 days. I really wanted to get to the plains, but bone mass is the point where I'm satisfied wherever I may end up. I say we're all prepped and ready for the mountains. I put the portal right beside my house and began the trek to the mountains. I, of course, had some hiccups on the way, but once I had arrived, I used that one shelter from before where I found a beehive and used it as a vantage point where I could safely take down the two wolves from before. Then I popped the frost resistance mead and traveled up the mountain, creeping along the side, taking out every single enemy in sight. I snapped wolves and drakes everywhere and came across my first dragon egg. There was a time where I was careless and a drake hit me, but it's nothing a healing mead can't fix. I was searching this mountain as carefully as I could. I mean, with every step, I had it in the back of my mind that a pack can spawn and hunt me down at any time. For those of you unfamiliar, it is the mountain's form of a raid. There was a cabin near the final egg, but as soon as I approached it, a golem decided to erupt into stance. I hit on a spiky rock that hopefully no animals could traverse. Eventually I gathered the courage to come down and climb to the peak, which the view was quite nice at. Right beside the 4th dragon egg was a frost cave. I wanted to get in and battle some cultists and Fenrir, but I couldn't because it was getting nighttime. Thankfully there was a rundown cabin nearby, but I was somehow missing fine wood from our portal. What? So this made me run all the way back home in the heavy rain. At the base of the mountain, I noticed I didn't bring any frost resistance mead. I had to place my portal at the back of the old wood ruin to go fetch this damn mead. In my head, I was telling myself that the snow was so hard to see through, so at any movement that is animal-like, I must activate my Forsaken power. Yeah, I did it at the sight of a drake. Good to know my reaction time was decent. But at last, I had finally arrived and was ready to call this base rightfully mine. I fixed up the outside a little bit and placed my portal down as I searched the chest. Turns out that I was right beside onions all along. Hastily, I planted the onions in a fashionable order and came back to level the ground a bit. Not sure why, but I just did. And now the confidence in me was soaring, so I tackled this frost cave head on. Initially, I was very scared as to see if I can handle multiple enemies. My gear was not really upgraded at all, and I had a blunt mace to handle them. That worry is for later because I chose to go down the right side of the cave. I found a lot of ancient cave markings and bats, annoyingly. Not to mention, this was riddled with crystals. I mean, they were everywhere, but it did seem to be a dead end. The path straight was as windy as the other path, but this time it had some doors. As soon as I opened the first one, I was immediately greeted with a cultist. I never ran so fast in my damn Valheim life. It ended up with me leading him to the entrance where he cannot climb, and I dispatched him. All he dropped was some fancy new jute. I thought a nice addition to the base would be the dragon bed to increase my resting buff and the room's looks. Due to the nature of all the mountain creatures, it's best I hunt for silver before even thinking about taking on any higher tier creatures like golems. Let's just hope I could find at least one silver vein on this damned mountain. I began exploring to the northeast of the mountain where I had a run-in with this lone wolf. I was literally a quarter of a second away from this run ending. If I did not jump, it would be over. I have to be a lot more careful from now on. Well, no luck here, so I guess my only option is to explore the open middle area. I was about to shoot this wolf, but I finally felt it. Not only did I find silver, but a cabin with onions too. The unexplored land is so flat and cool looking too. I want to make a home right there, stone or not. But instead I kinda actually settled for that small well-like retreat near the first golem. I mean, it's stone and it's strong. It could perfectly protect me, so why not? So I tore apart the cabin and placed everything inside my new home. I chopped some trees for the walls I would build around my silver vein I had found previously and left base with some arrows that I crafted with the rest of my iron and went for the silver vein. It was so hard to see, so anything can jump out and surprise me. When digging, I was going to use some stake walls around the dig site, but that's not quite necessary because the slope from the elevation is too steep for anything to go down. When I fully carved out the vein, it was just floating there. I wasn't quite sure why, so I did what anybody would do and just carved away at it. Unfortunately, after I mined the final bits, my resistance just ran out. I don't want to make any more because I'm close enough to the wolf fur cape, so I thugged it out and transferred all the stone I mined from that vein to home. My health would get low, but I made sure if it got too low that I would heal immediately with my health mead. I then made a cart and put all silver in it and went home to make the stone throne. Oh yeah, I should also mention that I grew my first onion. So for days 75 to 80, I'm going to speed it up for time's sake. I brought back silver from the mountain to base and built a temporary bridge over the gap to get the cart over. The onions were mostly done, but I let them sprout all at once. I destroyed the bonfire because it's just so big and ugly and redecorated the area by adding town-like poles since this really was home. I popped the silver into the smelters and collected this first piece to unlock the new recipes. I later placed down a butcher's table to unlock foods like ice cream and wolf meat foods, and also took a few resources to craft up my beautiful wolf fur cape. The next morning I collected all resources to craft the legendary Frostner. This beauty is not only a weapon of the gods, but the single weapon to guide the rest of this run. I crafted up the silver shield and was going to craft a new armor piece, but unfortunately lacked the wolf pelt to do so. And due to my impatience, I reseeded my crops, but 3 since they didn't want to sprout. Anyway, it's back to the frost cave where I straight up demolished a poor lad with my Frostner. But I still treaded lightly since these dungeons are filled with cultists and old. I crafted 2 new jute curtains at my cooking area. It really looks nice, but I was also ready to go back to the cave again. And then I thought, why haven't I been hunted by the wolves yet? And then it literally happened. This happens so much, it's crazy.
Oh my god. Oof.
Whoa! My next goal was to destroy the stone golem just to rid of its danger, but I wasn't quite sure if he was the sledge or the spike variant. Ultimately, I didn't poke the bear and retrieved my wishbone to find a bit more silver. Are you kidding me? Silver was by my base all along, as if I wasn't treading the earth above for forever. So, it dropped me a whole 92. Back at the mining area, I discovered a fancy new trick. Similar to copper mining, it takes a while to appear after being destroyed. Using this, I can throw a bundle of silver into the wall, and the game registers that it can't go there, and voila! Top of the slope. Simple as that. At home, I placed an extra smelter to have a load of 30 items per smelt cycle in hopes of speeding things up a little bit. Kinda relaxing. Despite the fact that I have now almost all the silver I'll ever need to fully craft and upgrade everything, I still have 0 wolf pelt. And you guessed it, back to the mountains. I started with drake hunting, and it worked out in my favor because it led me to getting a drake trophy on my first kill. But yeah, most of today was just wolf hunting. Looking back, I probably should have got a wolf or 2 just to have at home, so uh-oh. Since all of the silver was collected, I crafted the full armor set with a total of 50 silver left over. Not pictured. Even though the huntsman's bow is obviously the better choice overall against the jogger fang, I crafted the jogger fang too because why not? Oh yeah, I also did a bit of base remodeling too. It's kind of a cycle at this point. I upgraded my drake helmet and frostner once each because today I'm hoping to tackle some new mountains. I destroyed my cart and put a couple necessary items into the boat, placed a portal down, and sailed to the neighboring iron where I previously noted on the map as the mountains. The new land was nice since I was greeted by a rundown village of only 1 house and like 4 to 5 pens for some boars. Not to mention the maypole. This is definitely the Holy Boar village. After approaching the top of the mountain, it was a doozy. Bruh. I sailed to a new mountain area, but I initially sailed past to see if I could find a bigger one nearby, but the answer was no. No, I cannot. I traveled up the first mountain and it was indeed small. Smaller than my base. The real reason I came here is to go to that mountain. I was walking up to it and this wolf ambushed me and you know what? The silence tells the story. I was so spooked that I placed down a portal on an unclimbable slope and went home to gather myself. I mean, hey, at least there was a frost cave up there, and not gonna lie, this is the worst frost cave I've ever been in. The loot was so trash, I'm not even gonna tell you about it. Unfortunately, night was falling and I still haven't found a Vegvasir stone. Oh, ouchie. Alright, well, I just killed a serpent. I'm barely any different. It happened. I was wondering the whole time about if a serpent would come, well, pause. If a serpent would appear while I'm sailing, right? And it happens right there. Okay, I'm still going full speed, so I stopped the boat, right? I'm shooting my arrows. Well, it took me like 10. It took me 10 to kill him. And then, bam, he dies right here. I jump out. I get the scale, or I tried to get the scales, but they sunk too quick. And then I got all the serpent meat right here. Oh, shit. As you can see right here. And then I look at my second monitor. Bam. I'm not even fucking recording, bro. Soon I made a discovery that the same island that houses Haldor actually seems to have a mountain. There better be a damn mountain here.
You don't see me, man? Wow, you fuck.
But shortly after is when I figured out that the mountain was still too small. Not even mountain enemies would spawn, it was that bad. So I went home and wanted oh so badly to find a mountain worthy of conquering so I could fight Motor. Something just clicked and I remembered that there was a good deal of treasure that I could sell for coins. I mean, I did want the treasure chest if possible, so I kept at least 5 rubies and my only silver necklace for that. Haldor is such a great guy. I thought I should try my luck and travel back to the Black Forest base to try the south for a new mountain. And found a gigantic one. This thing is a behemoth. I mean, I made my way up the mountain in a good swoop of stamina and found this cabin in a nice spot. It was a big cabin too, but I approached cautiously.
Is that a golem? It's a fucking rock wall.
Oh no. Just around the corner of the big rock was a familiar structure, just chilling despite being overrun by world generation. No onion seeds, but that wouldn't be really necessary now, would it? Hopefully we'll find the Vegvasir in this one, eh? Help! Despite my great deal of hair loot and jute, I was defeated because I still couldn't find Motor. My best bet for the rest of this mountain is to find a tower or lucky frost cave, and perhaps then we will find and wrangle the beast. And the answer is no for the frost cave. I sailed even further while my hope was dwindling. But soon I came across a sticky, or should I say swampy, situation. I was the best stand captain in Sea of Thieves, so I'm pretty sure I can make this. Anyway, I sailed even in the darkest of nights to find the tallest mountain I've seen.
If you parry, it doesn't take stamina. Like, look. That's cool. Whoa. Matter of fact, we're going home right now. Archery target. Oh, I could definitely upgrade my skill with that. Wait, they say fighting on slopes is better now. Hopefully.
So this is when the call to arms update dropped, and the next few minutes was me fangirling over the new items, but I remember that there are some new enemies too.
They're fast. They're so fast.
The bear is quite a formidable enemy, but I'm much too strong for it now. I actually experimented with the archery target a little bit just to see what it's like, and it's pretty damn awesome. I wanted the iron brooch because the stats aren't really that bad, but I still need some iron. So I cooked some up at the swamp since I left some muddy scrap piles behind and deconstructed my boat to sail back home from the swamp. But after sailing home, I crafted the iron brooch and Hugin taught me about drilling. I went back to the new mountain, and while hiking up it, I accidentally stumbled into the plains right before the mountain biome and had to evade some feelings. This mountain seemed quite promising, so I started trekking up into the left of the mountain where I found a tower and a frost cave. The wolves were howling so frequently that there had to be about 8. I mean, I was right. I mean, look, they're not all pictured here, but you get the gist. I got the hell out of there just to be greeted by a foul smell from the swamp. Lovely. The next morning, I came across the most complete ruin I've ever seen. No Vigvasir so far, but there are a lot of intricate areas for castles around here. Eventually, I was led to the top, but unbeknownst to me, I was actually right in front of a frost cave. I tried to explore the rest of the mountain, but this blizzard, man. After a thorough search of the mountain, I decided to sail east in hopes of finding maybe even an altar at this point. All I need is a Vigvasir or an altar, man, please. It was quite the slow sail because the wind was against me, but I came to a little swamp crossing once more. It wasn't too much of a hassle to thread the needle, except when I hit some land on it I didn't quite see. Yeah, that punch there, that was out of anger. That was a Vanos reference. Mountain right here. Ooh, Bog Witch. I didn't even see that. The shore was covered in plains, so I had to sail around a bit to get to a safer biome to pass through. Fortunately, there was a small patch of black forest land I had parked at. I was ravaging through the black forest and stopped to test the ability of my trinket on a nearby Grey Dwarf nest. It wasn't too shabby because the Grey Dwarfs barely pinch me when it's active, so I continued on through the black forest until I found the mountain's base. I ran up it and I saw this. Whoa, ooh. At this point, I was thinking I'd be angry as hell if there was a jogger tower up there, but now I just have to take care of this bad boy. And done. As I walked up, I noticed that this is the exact structure I needed all along since I had the Vigvasir. Much too late now. Now to place the portal and come back to the fight, and there, that's another golem. Yep, lovely. Hey pal, how you doing? Never mind. As night approached, I spawn-proofed the top of the mountain a little to mitigate golem and wolf spawns during the fight. Day 92 is mostly spent manipulating the campfire radii to optimize its effectiveness to decreasing the spawn rates. As you can see, wolves are a sign that I'm ass at this. Now that I have every inch of this mountain protected, I figured I'd get this second buried egg I found to place into the altar. Now we just need one more egg.
Now what are you doing, bro?
I got a good view of how much I covered the area, and it's safe to say I'm quite proud of my work. It was then time to flatten the area, but I had to go back to get my resting buff. Then I switched objectives to go fetch a dragon egg, but unfortunately there weren't any left on this mountain. My only option was to go to any other mountain, which led me to remember that I had plenty of these dragon eggs on my home island's mountain. I figured it was about time I man up and get more iron to finally cook that serpent meat for the motor fight. But the wraiths were nowhere to be found. I searched through every nearby crypt, and you will soon learn why I never tackle all those muddy scrap piles in the swamp biome. A whole 8 iron. Yeah, you should mine all of them to maximize the iron, but if you're like me and don't upgrade your items, forget about it. I smelted the iron while I teleported back to the home island mountain to fetch a dragon egg. And then once nighttime hit, I teleported to the swamp in hopes of finding a wraith. This time I'm kiting around the edge and going to structures I could see to hopefully attract some. And good enough, it worked.
Hello.
Let me just load up my bow. Dink. The iron was done smelting, and I fetched the final chain out of the chest to craft the iron cooking station. It was here that I remembered that serpent meat weighs about 10 pounds a pop. Wowzers. Once I crafted up more arrows, I sailed away in the morning.
Arbor, yeah.
Another what? Might have taken me all day, but what's funny to me is the next thing I know, I'm parking the ship into a fucking war zone. Odin gets moved by a bear and fueling. Skeleton shoots down Deathsquito, then Skeleton gets trampled by 3 logs. I ran right past and had to alleviate the local mountain population a little bit. But finally, I placed the last dragon egg into the offering bowl, and I'm almost ready to fight Motor. Today consists of some housekeeping things. I did some bird hunting since it was raining and I needed some feathers. I flattened out that fighting area a little bit and dug a few holes to dip into in case things got a bit hairy. Then mined a bit of obsidian for some more arrows and wasted the rest of the day since I wanted to get as much time as possible for this fight. I grabbed my huntsman's bow and crafted up some wood arrows since I was out of feathers after crafting those obsidian arrows. I upgraded my jogger thing to increase the durability a little bit more, so now I have 2 bows and can shoot around 250 arrows for this fight, so I have to be quite accurate. After my courage was gathered, I approached the altar and began the fight. Over here. Ooh, landed it. How in the fuck? Nice. There was a moment where she turned around and she did her cold breath, which reminded me of the slide cancel gorilla. Oh no. Destroy that wolf. Said the wolf, not me, but yeah. With about 1/5 of her health, my jogger thing finally broke and was starting to run low on arrows. But with her health whittled down enough, I dealt the final blow to render her bedridden from Valheim. That just rushed a wave of relief over me, and man, it felt great. I ran to spawn to place her head on the hook, and ran right back home to place the artisan table upstairs. Well, that's a nice power, ain't it? Well, I kinda left my game on for the whole day. I ran away from my setup for an emergency, but I can't really remember what. Despite only 2 days left, I thought I could hit the plains a little bit. Oh, and you may have noticed this plains portal. I forgot to mention that, I'm not gonna lie. I ran out of great orph eyes to build another dual portal setup and fetch some more from a nearby nest to Haldor's. The thing is, I didn't need any more. I forgot to even set the first one down. I hiked down the mountain and couldn't see a death skeeto coming out of the snow, but a hero bear pushes me out of the way, simultaneously killing the death skeeto. What a legend. He even took on a feeling for me, and I kinda just let them be. I was extremely cautious in these new lands and killed every death skeeto I saw. Eventually, I came across an empty tar pit right beside the village near the bay and aggroed the nearest brute since the other one is star leveled. It was going nice until bro started running away, indefinitely. I cleared most of the village out, but there was still what I believe was his 2-star berserker. Whoa. Well, he's indeed a 2-star. Hey there you are, I've been looking all over for you. I settled for making a little home in the Black Forest nearby and placed a portal down to solidify Plains' method of transport. Day 100. Woohoo! I rushed downstairs to craft the Horn of Celebration, and that was it. The end of my 100 days. I had loads of fun during the whole 3 months of recording this, and no fun editing it for months. Here I thought 100 days videos were easy. I lost a whole day's worth of footage, and I genuinely apologize for that too. But I hope you all enjoyed, and if you like any Valheim or car content, try out my other videos that are coming out soon. If you want me to continue this series, I'm not going to listen to you at all. I do still make videos on my main world, which I plan to do even past the release of the game. Anyway, I'm glad you at least watched even a part of this. Enough of my talk. I'm Electro, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.